Good afternoon, everyone. Many of you know me from CSX, but for those of you who don't, my name is Maggie Hsu, and I lead go-to-market for A16Z Crypto. Prior to this, I was at AWS leading go-to-market for Amazon's managed blockchain product. Before that, I was an early business development hire at a decentralized exchange called AirSwap. And I first became interested in Web3 and blockchain when I was at Zappos, the e-commerce company. We were experimenting with novel methods of self-organized systems. And that's how I got interested in DAOs and everything like that. I'll pass it over to my colleague Pyrs to introduce himself.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Despite how my name is spelled, it's pronounced Pyrs. I started my career in traditional finance, trading equity derivatives, which would have been horrifically boring had two things not happened, which is I found crypto as a retail trader, and then I was lucky enough to have a mentor who told me to not wake up and be 30 working in finance. So I then transitioned into a business development role at a streaming audio platform called TuneIn, where we negotiated large platform BD deals with the likes of Amazon, Google, Tesla, and others. I then found my way back to crypto, having most recently spent time at DraftKings, which is an online gambling platform where we built a number of crypto products, including an NFT marketplace, an NFT-based fantasy game, and delved into the world of business development that is particularly unique in Web3 and thinking about IP licensing and B2B business development integrations, and very thankful to have joined Maggie 2 years ago this past April at A16Z Crypto. So I'll let her take it away and you'll see me in a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks, Pyrs. So today we'll be talking about different types of go-to-market that are more Web 2-like and some that are more Web 3-like. We'll talk about our go-to-market team and how we typically support portfolio companies. We'll go through a go-to-market checklist, and this is really things that you need before you embark on your go-to-market journey. And then we'll spend the majority of the time doing a deep dive around your messaging. We'll do some exercises. We'll get some folks up on stage to give their elevator pitches. So it'll be a fun, engaging afternoon. So what is go-to-market? Go-to-market means different things to different people, and it can encompass many different functions. So these are just a few of the functions you might find associated with go-to-market: business development, sales, marketing, and growth. But at its core, go-to-market is about bringing something, and that something could be a product or a service, to market. In Web3, there are a lot of different things you could bring to market. That list is kind of bigger than this. This is just a small representation of the different types of business models that you might see. So go-to-market models really depend on two things. One is the level of centralization or decentralization of your entity. And decentralization could be on three fronts: technical, economic, and legal. And our general counsel, Miles Jennings, has spoken at length about this in prior talks, so highly suggest you watch those. The second one is whether or not you have a token. And as you guys know from Eddie's talk, our CTO, that can have different go-to-market motions associated with no token and token. So at the end of the day, centralized with no token, that tends to lend itself more to these Web 2-like models. Decentralized with a token, you start to see more Web 3 native models. So I'll talk through 5 common go-to-market motions today. And some are more Web 2-like, others are Web 3 native. You could actually find these in both. And across all of these, you can actually layer in token mechanisms. I will not focus on that today, but again, there's something here where you have kind of the non-token version, and then there are different token things you can do on top of that. The first two, product-led and sales-led. Product-led, the user action here is you're going to a site and you're signing up. So this is really a self-serve model. And in the Web 2 example, you might think of something like Squarespace or Zoom, where you're signing up for an account and you're self-onboarding. In Web 3, an example here could be Nansen, an analytics company. And the team structure you need to support that is essentially your marketing team, because you're marketing to consumers, they're then signing up and using the product. Going to sales-led. So in a sales-led go-to-market motion, someone is coming to your site and they're requesting a demo. And you have a salesperson who's actually hand-holding you, walking you through the options and benefits. What's interesting is at a sales-led company, so take the example of Alchemy with Web3 Infra, they still have the product-led version, but they also have this kind of sales-led. So if it's an individual developer, they might just be going and self-serving and leaving. If it's an enterprise, they'll kind of have this more sales motion. And so your team structure here is sales and account management. I'd say for you at your stage, early stage startups, it really is sales-led, because you as the founders are hand-holding your first customers through that process. As you start to get more developed, as you start to get more standardized, you likely will then go to a product-led version, and then as you grow, you would add back sales-led. The next type is integrations and distribution channel partnerships. So in this case, the user is actually not doing anything new. They're using their same product, but now it's available in more places. An example here for an L1, so think the example of Aptos. They have now more wallets, custody exchange support. So if you're a user, you can use your same wallet, but maybe now it has support for a new chain. Or in the case of XMTP, they partnered with Coinbase to add messaging to Coinbase's wallet. So as a user here, you're going to Coinbase's wallet, but now there's this great messaging feature. In terms of team structure, a lot of this is business development related, it's partnership related, so you have this BD and partnerships team. But you also see things like DAO governance. And so one of our portfolio companies, Layer 0, they are a bridge, and they're oftentimes going through DAO governance to get their integrations voted in. That's a very different go-to-market motion than the traditional BD and partnerships. The next one is developer-led. So in this case, you want someone to interact with your SDKs or build on top of your offering. And so for a gaming infra company like Magic Block, that's really the primary relationship there in the motion is developer relations. Or for an L1 or L2 like Solana or Optimism, again, it's kind of building lots of apps on top of that. I'd say there's a version of this, which is where the developer is your own team. And oftentimes you see this when you have a protocol that you're trying to bring to market. Farcaster is a great example. So here, the user action is actually the same because it turns into a consumer app, so it's still sign up. Farcaster launched Warpcast, as we all know, as the first client. Within the CSX cohort, we have Nosh that's bringing protocol to market through the Nosh app. Same thing with Strobe. And in this case, you have traditional kind of app or product dev teams, so that's product engineering and design. The last one is community-based. And so in this case, the action might be to engage on Discord or show up to an in-person event. Some examples here, Yuga Labs, they have a number of different NFT communities, and they created 8Fest. They want you to show up to this event. With Farcaster, they had FarCon, and we had our own FarAwayCon here. And those weren't even organized by Farcaster. Or if you're a game like Proof of Play, they might have their Discord bots or other things on Discord. In this case, you need a community manager and event organizer. You can mix and match these go-to-market motions, and I'd say most of you probably have some combination of these. It's not just one or the other. And in Web3 especially, I'd say in Web2, you tend to see a SaaS business and they're kind of product or sales, or they're more limited. You potentially might be using all of these at some point in your journey. Moving into tactics, it's the long list of different tactics, not exhaustive, but some are potentially more Web 2-like, some are more Web 3 native, and I haven't seen these really interacting too much, but I do think it's starting to go there where you have analytics platforms that are allowing you to take the best of these trad levers, maybe take an email address and do something with it, or take a wallet address and run some analytics on top of it. An example here, Uniswap, they do traditional display advertising, and they also obviously have done airdrops and other things like that. So how do we typically work with portfolio companies? A few different ways. The first one is through product launches. So this could be everything from your launch strategy, thinking through competitive positioning. We recently had a portfolio company, they had a product that was very successful in one region, and they wanted to bring it to a different region. So we helped them think through the timing, the competitive positioning, the analysis around doing that. The second is partnership advice. We do a lot of this, and this could be tactical introductions. It could be walking you through a contract negotiation, kind of going through play by play what that might look like. So an example of a great introduction is we connected one of our portfolio companies with a large automotive manufacturer, and they ended up collaborating on something pretty cool. On the contract negotiation front, we were helping one of our companies negotiate against an Oracle, and we were able to shave off several $1 million off their integration fee just through kind of talking through the basics of contract negotiation. Pyrs gave a great talk on this during last CSX, and he's available to talk about any sort of negotiating tactics. We also spend a significant amount of our time on what I would call blockers and escalations, and this could be things like getting blocked at one of the app stores. It could be any sort of infrastructure support. And this probably happens on a weekly, if not daily basis, where we have a company that is having some kind of issue or problem here. And so an example, and this happened just last week, was one of our wallets. They were blocked on the App Store. They couldn't get on, and we were able to help them escalate it, think through kind of what the reasons might be, provide documentation back to Apple, and they were able to launch just the other day. And then on the infra side, so we had another company that had a great problem. They were growing very, very quickly. As a result, they hit all the rate limits on all of their services. And so at AWS, they tapped out and the site went down. And we were able to help them get the site up within a matter of hours versus the typical 48 or 72 hours that you'd find from just opening up a support ticket. This can also be something like custody support. So as you're launching a token, we can help with introductions to qualified custodians, or something as simple as just like getting your Coinbase institutional account up and expedited. So in terms of the go-to-market checklist, I'd say regardless of any of the go-to-market motions that you might have, here are a few things. I made it 10, so it's an easy number. There are 10 things that you need before you embark on that motion. The first side is collateral. And this is really organized by shortest to longest. So you absolutely need your boilerplate. This is your kind of written paragraph version as well as your verbal elevator pitch. And this is useful in sending any sort of introduction email when you're talking to anyone. Like, this is table stakes, having your boilerplate and your logo and kind of all those assets. The next is your one-pager. And so what does a one-pager have? It typically has a little bit more about the company, a few potential use cases, and this is something you might send in advance of a meeting just to kind of help the person kind of prep for the meeting, or you might send it as a second email when someone says, hey, that sounds really interesting, can you share more? The third is your sales or biz dev deck. This is slightly different from your investment or pitch deck. This deck should actually be 2 or 3 different decks, and it should really be tailored to the different ICP types or ideal customer profile types. Pyrs will talk a lot about this later, but this should have slight variations on messaging, and I would recommend not sending this in advance. This is not something that you necessarily pre-read. This is something you're walking through on a first call. And then finally, your website. Do not forget this. I can't tell you the number of times I'm connecting a company with a potential partner, and they go to the website and they're like, there's nothing there. And like that just like almost is a non-starter. And so make sure if it's relevant, you have your developer documentation. And please, please add case studies. Really, any case studies. This is something that when someone's looking to partner with you, it's not just this proof point, but something that I'd say is really important to have for any type of conversation. Moving to the analysis bucket. So your customer segmentation. Many of you I've seen segment your customers. This is great. So you have these types of customers and you're talking to all of them. But what you might not be doing is saying, who is the actual stakeholder at that type of customer who I need to be talking to? And we've seen time and time again, you spend 6 months talking to someone. So it's the right company, but it turns out it's the wrong person. So you get them bought on. It turns out they have no decision-making power and you just wasted 6 months of your time. So understanding who is the right stakeholder at that sort of company. The next one is your channel or partner strategy. And again, this differs depending on if you're B2B, which is business to business, B2D, business developer, B2C, business to consumer. And that can really affect how you think about your channel strategy. The third is competitive positioning. So as Ariana said, it's important to have in your pitch, but it is really, really important to have when you're going to market with a partnership conversation. Because what you're doing is you're actually, if you're talking to a potential customer, they have kind of maybe one of your competitors. They now need to rip that out and put you in. So you need to have a really good reason why they should do that. Or they're looking at you and they're deciding between you and your competitors, and you need to have a reason why you stand head and shoulders above the others. And then the last one, again, this goes to kind of that categorization. So having your partner categorization, which again, a lot of you do naturally, but having the prioritization. And so the number of times Pyrs and I get a list of 50 different companies that someone wants to talk to, and we say, but like, who are the most important ones? And there's kind of this blank stare. So thinking through what that really means, like who's gonna add revenue, who's gonna be a great case study, like what are those key partners? And the last is process. So you want to set up your pipeline, and it doesn't really even matter what format it's in. I've seen great pipelines that are in Google Docs. It can be in Notion, it can be in Airtable, it could even be in a Word document. But what you really need to have is your categories. And typically that would be initial conversation, in conversation, technical diligence, integration, like post-integration, as simple as that. But then you also want to have your owners. So how are you approaching and making sure that things are getting from category to category, and maybe at different stages? So the technical implementation, you're bringing in someone from your engineering team, for example. So who are you bringing in at each stage? And then the last one is your inbound management process and your outbound, your outreach strategy. And again, you might have all the inbound in the world. It's so exciting. Everyone's reaching out to you, but it's from the wrong partners. And so really mapping that against your prioritization and saying, we might get all this inbound, but actually what is our outreach strategy back? So we'll actually be spending most of today focused on these two things. We think they're so critical. So one is the elevator pitch and the other is key messaging. And I will pass it to Pyrs to talk about those.
So I'm really happy that during Chris's talk, he was able to touch on, I think it came during Q&A, but he was able to touch on this concept that we go, like as a venture capital firm, we think about finding stars. And you can use like whatever analogy you want. Like some people say athletes, stars, best in class, whatever. Your ability to communicate and exceed expectations is everything. And that all starts with storytelling. So what we're trying to help do today is not only implore you, but help you figure out how to master the art of storytelling and make it a superpower. Some of these artifacts are going to seem potentially too mature or further dated for you than as an early stage startup company, but they're critically important artifacts because they anchor you not only in a reality that you can live within, but they also help establish your credibility and intent as a founder. So Anyone know who this is? Andy, Parks and Rec? Okay, great. Okay, a couple of people. Well, the blank stare should be enough to communicate the message here. Like, nobody in your network, whether it's a co-founder, whether it's an investor, whether it's an employee, whether it's a potential customer, should ever feel this way about your company and its purpose and its mission. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about mission statements. Actual definition of a mission statement doesn't really matter in this context. Like, what I want to impart on everybody here is that having a mission statement delivers you a number of different benefits. And so we'll go through what some of those benefits are. It delivers you as a founder direction. In the Web3 space, there is so much innovation and there's so much rapid growth that it can be incredibly easy to get sidetracked or to go down an alternative path that leads you away from your core mission. And so a mission statement really can help you think about the things that support your long-term goals that you set out to achieve when you founded the company. A mission statement can also help differentiate your company. Even in Web3, which is still a nascent category and growing very rapidly, there are a number of different providers for similar products, and customers or partners are faced with seemingly similar choices. Differentiating yourself can help you win, not only attract, but win customers and partners based on what is unique about you as founders and the team and company that you're building. It's also important to memorialize this mission statement for company culture, right? Ideally, you're going to be growing rapidly and adding a number of people to your team. And having a mission statement really gives you the ability to unify the efforts of all your colleagues, employees, regardless of their role or tenure or core job responsibility. A really cheesy quote is get the boat rowing in the same direction. Like, a mission statement can help you do that. And then lastly, I would encourage you to come up with a mission statement, and you may already have one and may need to rework it to give yourselves the space to be adaptable. Like, inevitably, there will be moments in time where you have to flex your core purposes, whether that might be an evolving product landscape, a new initiative that you're bringing on board. So I would leave room for adaptability. So mission statement is really the first artifact to think about. And then as you think about your products and services, the second thing to think about is a benefit statement. So there's a number of situations that we've all probably been in where we felt like, in this case, Pablo Escobar, sitting on a bench in boredom and anticipation. But what a benefit statement will do is deliver, again, these 4 core principles that you can immediately act on as a founder. So again, the definition here really doesn't matter of what a benefit statement is. We're all going to unpack that together. But what they can do for your products and services is deliver intense clarity and compounding clarity. It's going to enhance your customers' understanding of who you are and what you're building. It's going to allow them to identify things that they resonate with when you're engaging with them. And then that feedback loop reinforces everything that is laid out in your mission statement. Benefit statements also create this emotional connection. So when you're speaking to a prospective counterparty, you're speaking to an investor coming up here at Demo Day, appealing to those emotions is really appealing to their needs. What are they missing? What are you there fixing? And establishing that relationship builds trust almost immediately with, again, whoever it might be, a potential partner, a customer, an investor, et cetera. A benefit statement can also increase the efficiencies of your conversations. I think we're all here to maximize our time or return on our time. And so cutting to the chase and having a concise and consolidated customer-focused statement can just help you create that efficiencies for yourselves. And then ideally, a benefit statement is outcome-oriented, right? You got to lead the proverbial horse to the proverbial water so that they drink. These are not technical specifications. Even in Web3, that is overtly technical. These should be tangible outputs that whoever you're speaking to is going to receive from working together. So we're going to go through a couple examples just to really cement this idea. I realize, again, that these might be artifacts that are either well-established within your companies, and maybe we can all look at them together today, or they might be things that you feel like are too far out and too far dated, but I couldn't encourage you to think about them enough. So this is LinkedIn's mission statement. It reads, connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. What I really like about this mission statement is they define their industry position, right? It's a social media platform, but for businesses and professionals. Very clear. It also lends to this concept of culture and adaptability, right? Make them more productive and successful. That's a very amorphous statement. And it creates the flexibility for LinkedIn to pivot to add products and services, but tether them back to the overall objective of the company. They also have a number of benefit statements because they have a number of different products, but they make most of their revenue from subscriptions and advertising. And in fact, their advertising product is called LinkedIn Marketing Service Solutions. And last year alone, I think it pulled in $4 billion of revenue for them. So this is the benefit statement for LMS, or LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. And I've highlighted the really key part here, which is the customer focus statement. So not only does this bring clarity immediately to anyone who might be reading it or hearing it in person, sophisticated B2B targeting. Like, that speaks directly to the customer or partner that they're going after. And then it also builds this emotional connection in the first half of the benefit statement, which is building long-term relationships. Long-term relationships in a B2B go-to-market motion is everything. So those relationships are hyper valuable, and LinkedIn is speaking directly to these with this benefit statement. Here's one a little closer to home. So Coinbase's mission statement is to increase economic freedom in the world. And you might notice, like, it outlines the company goal for sure. It doesn't really differentiate it in terms of its position in market. And I kind of like it. Like, maybe that's because they don't need to as a canonical centralized exchange. That's to say that you don't have to have all of these elements. As long as you have the guiding principles of what a mission statement is there to accomplish, then you're treading in the right direction. And then this is the benefit statement for Base, the L2, which I know everyone is familiar with. It's a secure, low-cost, builder-friendly Ethereum 2 built to bring the next billion users on-chain. The next billion users on-chain, I think, is a little controversial. It's like an overplayed statement in crypto. But here, with the benefit statement, again, they're giving extreme clarity. What are developers looking for? What are customers, consumers, users looking for? Secure, low-cost, builder-friendly. Very clear and concise. And then it does build that emotional connection to all of us who have been in crypto long enough to know that the next billion users on chain is a phrase used by many companies in this space. But it also, kind of like pulls at that emotional connection that we all feel, which is, the proliferation of this technology and bringing new consumers into the space. And then the last one I'll touch on, because I think you get the point by now, is OpenSea. Their mission statement is to build the world's most trusted and inclusive NFT marketplace with the best selection. So again, very clearly outlines the company goals, and then it defines its industry position. I actually really like this because if you're an NFT marketplace, there are so many things that you could look to also build and integrate into your core offering that it can be distracting, right? So they ground themselves in their mission statement of, we are an NFT marketplace. Yet wallets, like, everything else that comes along with interoperability and UX, UI, like, that's somebody else's core problem. This is the benefit statement for OpenSea Wallet. Funny enough that I just mentioned wallets. And the key thing here that I highlighted is their customer focus statement, right? All without a separate wallet extension. I think we're all familiar with the pains of Web3 wallet interfaces. And so this speaks directly to, again, that emotional connection with you as a user or a developer. And it also helps deliver clarity. So if you couldn't tell, like, I'm a big fan of the memes. Does anyone know who this is? Like, okay, all right, great. Well, I asked if you knew who Andy was, and like everyone's like, I don't know. So if you haven't seen this clip, it is awesome. Michael, like, is very nervous. He gets called down to corporate or up. I don't know where Pennsylvania is in relationship to New York, but he gets called into corporate and he's like super nervous, and he shows up and his boss, David, asks him to explain like how the branch is performing so well. And so Michael kind of like opens up on this ramble and he says, well, David, my philosophy is basically this. And then it's just like 30 seconds of him doing this whole recursive stumbling around explanation of what his philosophy is. It doesn't make any sense. Your elevator pitch is your story. It's your story as a founder. It's your company's story. And it's something that you need to own and should be able to say in your sleep. So it's the synthesis of the things that we just touched on, right? The mission statement is an artifact. The benefit statement is an artifact. They coalesce into this elevator pitch that you're going to know and own in your sleep. This might be obvious, but we want to just talk about it for a second. There's a lot of benefits to putting this work in now. Like, you all had an elevator pitch to get into this program, but you've gone through 6 weeks of curriculum. You've met each other. The space has changed in 6 weeks. You should be constantly evaluating your ability to go out and market and clearly articulate what the point of your company is. And so not only does that establish your brand as a founder, like literally who you are and your representation of intent with building your company, but it establishes your company brand. It also operationalizes your time. If you can hone your elevator pitch and get it down so that you know within 30 seconds after delivering it, whether or not you're talking to the right person, is everything. And that talking to the right person is kind of the last point here. It helps you close the feedback loop. So whether you understand your purpose or not becomes very evident if your elevator pitch is landing or not. And then also if you've identified the right stakeholder or not becomes very evident based on the reception. So we are going to spend some time working on this together. Again, I mentioned this. You all at some point have developed an elevator pitch for the company you're building here within the cohort. But now you've gone through this 6 weeks of curriculum, 5 more to go. And last week you spent some time with Steve Ebert thinking about brand building. And so now it's time to put all of those things to work and really get down to business and make sure that none of you wind up like Michael Scott. So we're going to break out into your individual groups, like your individual teams, and work on a 2-minute elevator pitch. And then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about ICPs, ideal customer profiles, and we'll kind of go into the next part of the workshop after that. So you have about 10 or 15 minutes to work on an elevator pitch, and then things will get juicy from there. So again, like mission statements, benefit statements, the artifacts of your company values and culture are things that evolve over time. And so, it's always a good practice to go back, refresh, reset, make sure you're still aligned with your co-founder, your employees, et cetera. The same with your elevator pitch. Like I'm still working on my elevator pitch every time I'm at a new conference, every time I'm in market, depending on what my priorities are and what I'm trying to achieve. So hopefully this exercise is just, again, bringing your attention to something that is a hypercritical tool in your tool chest as we head into demo day. So in the context of an elevator pitch today, we're speaking about partners, customers, users, but this same elevator pitch can be applicable to anyone that is relevant to your business outcomes and objectives. And so we're just going to talk about ideal customer profile for a second. Official definition of ICP from Gartner is firmographic, environmental, and behavioral attributes of accounts that are expected to become a company's most valuable customers. You can think of like firmographic is similar to how demographics describe an individual. Firmographics are at the firm level or at like your ability to segment customers. And in Web3, like this is kind of a hard definition to work with, right? Because like it immediately jumps to business outcomes, objectives, accounts, et cetera. And especially for pre-seed companies in Web3. So rather than thinking about it as accounts and customers, I actually think about all of these terms as being interoperable. An ICP as an early stage founder can be anyone that is relevant to the business objectives that you're trying to achieve. And so what it really becomes about is actually understanding and trying to hone in on the psychographics, which is like the attitudes, the interests, the personality traits of the counterparty that you're speaking to. And then another important concept to borrow from benefit statements is really identifying like their needs and pains. So you can imagine, for example, with either a user in your community or a customer, like their needs and pains might be the same, they might be different.